Welcome, everyone. It's Matt, and today we're going to do our delightful pair of Latias and Latios during our Delightful Days unit review. This is going to be happening for the weekend of July 26th through the weekend of July 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is the entire time that max battles are available during your local time. So let's get her done. All right, for Delightful Days activities for our Latios and Latias battle, we will have our debuts of Dynamax Latias and Latios. Personally, I think my favorite shiny is Latias, and I know a lot of people really enjoy the teal on Latios, but me, I'm more of an orange dude. With that, we do have a timed research, which I do really like these timed research. They do help free-to-plays, trainers, and with that, they start at Monday at 6 a.m., which is July 21st. It will be the same exact timed research that we're used to. Complete 5 max battles, unlock a max move, upgrade 3 max moves, etc., etc. The nice thing is during this week, upgrading max moves is 3/4 the cost, so it is slightly cheaper as well. And with that, you get roughly 1,600 max particle points. So 1,600 aren't really a lot, but if you save them once you maxed out during the Friday, you will be able to get basically two free battles on Saturday or Sunday if you can only fight on Sunday. And with that, that does allow you to get more. On top of this, we have the event bonus, which has our max particle collection limit to 1,600. So that's 4 battles there, plus another 2 on Sunday. And that is 6. But if you're really crafty about this, you do your max particle from the power spot, which is 8 times. So it's 820 if it's a new, or 800 if you've used it the day before. And we have a quarter adventuring distance, so it's 500 kilometers instead of 500 meters. Sorry, not kilometers, instead of the 2 kilometers, which in general is pretty easy to get. So what you do is you do the max particle spot, then collect distance twice, and then do another max particle, and that should get you above and beyond. And if you do that both Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's another 2. If you're not on Campfire, check to see if there's any groups that has a community campfire leader there. They will give you each day that they're there a quest. They're pretty easy. You finish it, you'll get 800 more. So that's another 2. And you can see how you could actually do a decent amount of these for free. If you are looking for more, though, there is a Eon Max Battle Weekend Ultra Box, which is just a whole bunch of marketing mumbo jumbo, and it is very expensive at $9.99 or the equivalent price for your local currency. Personally, you only get 7 max particle packs and a max mushroom. This is not a great bundle. I have a decent amount of max particle packs. I'm going to try not to. I'm not going to even buy this. I'd rather just buy the max particle packs myself. Yeah, it's a slight deal, and mostly because of the max mushrooms in it. But generally, I do not like this at all. I prefer the other $4.99 bundles because that gave us 5,600 max particle collection limits. So that gave you 4,000, which is equivalent to 5 of the 7 max particle packs, and it was half the price. On top of it, usually you got a max mushroom there as well. So for me, it had to be something like 12 to 14 max particle packs for it to be worth it. All right, let's go with Latias. Latias is going to take increased damage from Bug, Dark, Dragon, Fairy, Ghost, Ice from her Dragon Psychic combination at 60%. She is strong to Electric, Fighting, Fire, Grass, Psychic, Water, taking reduced damage at 37.5%. Latias stats: she has good attack at 228. Defense is very good at 246, and his stamina is average to slightly below now at 190 HP. CPs you're looking for is 1921 through her hundo at 2006. Generally, if we were just looking at this as a vacuum, the stats are very promising looking. But as you can see, I think the harder Pokemon that we're going to be going for on general, except for me, because I really want a Latias shiny is Latios. Latios is also Dragon Psychic, so he has a increased damage from Bug, Dark, Dragon, Fairy, Ghost, and Ice, and also is weak to Electric, Fighting, Fire, Grass, Psychic, and Water, just like Latias. But the stats are basically switched, but Latios' attack is really strong at 268. Our strongest Dynamax other than Zacian. Defense is very solid as well, and the stamina is the same as Latias at 190. IVs here is 2090 to 2178, which is the hundo. And as you can tell with the IVs difference being pretty stark, around 150 or so, that Latios just overall is the better Pokemon. And even with the defense difference, the defense is really only about 28 or 30. I'd rather be using Latios as the tank instead of Latias. So if you could really only farm one, even mildly heavy, I would advise for Latios over Latias. But still get Latias at the very least, as they are a very beautiful pair. All right, going Latias fast moves. We're going to see something fairly similar with Latios, but Latias does have 3 Dragon Breath for Dragon, which has our half second, Zen Headbutt for Psychic, which is 1 second, and for Fairy, we have a 1.5 second Charm, and it's a little annoying. If honestly she had a fast Fairy attack, there would be a very solid reason to be going for Latias, but sadly, that is not the case. Charge moves are a little bit of a pain with our electric being Thunder with a 2.5 second move at 100, which is actually kind of painful. And for a Dragon Psychic to have Thunder or Electric is a little pain to try and get everyone resistant to that. Outrage, the one Dragon charge move, is quite slow, has a decent power, but the combination of those two makes it one of actually the more preferred attacks. And Psychic and Miss Ball are obviously the Psychic attacks, with actually Miss Ball being by far the more dangerous, Psychic being pretty strong too. Latias, or Latios, sorry, has only 2 fast moves, very similar to Latias. Dragon being 0.5 seconds and Psychic being a 1 second move. And for both Latios and Latias, obviously we're going to be sticking with Dragon Breath for our primary 0.5 second move and not the Psychic moves. For Latios, the charge moves, Dragon Claw is very spammable, but honestly can be mitigated by Zacian. Psychic and Luster Purge. Luster Purge is by far the scariest, Psychic being 1.5 seconds at 100. Psychic 3 seconds 95 is still pretty strong. And Latios has a nuke in Solar Beam, but it is a very slow move. So if it takes a while for it to go, you're pretty sure it's going to be Solar Beam. And so you could kind of tell with that and prepare as well. Personally, Latios is the scarier one to be going against because it has higher attack and the same amount of HP. And quite frankly, the defense difference is so small that it's going to be really hard to tell the difference between how quickly you're going to be able to beat either of them. But Latios has a much higher attack threshold. All right, we're going to do our damage capability Psychic. And I don't enjoy Psychic because I have a hard time spelling it right the first time. But with Psychic, Latias and Latios both are on the upper echelon. But Latias is on the low end of the upper echelon, and Latios is our new leader for Psychic attacking. It would be really exciting if they had a half second, but right now Psychic is a slower attack form. It is pretty powerful though now with Latias, Hedrine, Metagross, and Latios. But right now, our leader is Latios, and it's actually significantly stronger than Metagross as well now, between 10 and 12% difference. Metagross was our king. Now it's a jack of all trades, really. And honestly, you're going to be using Metagross mostly for its bug attack anyways, unless if you're using it for its nukes. Psychic is generally not a tanking type of attack element that I prefer, but it is a very powerful transformation element. And if you have a level 50 Metagross, it is going to be more powerful than the level 40 Latios. So if you have a Metagross at level 50, you may be keeping it for a while. Latios does require it to be around level 43 for it to be equal power to a level 50 Metagross. And once you get it above 43, Latios will have the higher attack, slightly lower defense, slightly lower HP, but generally they're going to be really hard to distinguish the differences in defensive power and how long it will last. It's basically a rounding error for most battles. This is our first dragon damage capability. Beforehand, we had our weakest and most powerful because we only had one choice in Charizard. But now we finally get to open it up. And it's no surprise, Latios holds the title for being the strongest dragon for now, for probably a month. And then Eternatus is coming. But Latios is our strongest dragon for now. Really, we're going to be using it more probably for its psychic anyways, so don't feel too bad about leveling up Latios. Latias is more for diehards to really level up. And yes, because if I get a shiny Latias, I'm leveling that up only because, I love Latias and I'll use it. But that's more for flex than honestly for power. And finally, we have Fairy. And Hatterene is still the best option for attacking in Fairy type. If you don't really want to level up Hatterene and rather have Latias being the bigger flex, because Latias, she can obviously do a lot more in general, then that will be fine. But because if Latias had the Fairy type, she would be equivalent to Hatterene, and at that point I would have chosen Latias because of the other elements. But because of that, she's 24 to 34% weaker depending on the level. All right, we're going to do a 2 damage takens because Latias and Latios have different attacks and different speeds of attacks. But interestingly enough, they're going to be the same tanks in general. So you're going to see the numbers change between the two, but not the Pokemon. So generally, we're going to be really going with Zamazenta being the best sponge, even though really Zamazenta only has 37.5% resistance for dragon only of this set, and Blissey is just 0 overall. Generally, what I have found so far is that for some strange reason, 5-star Dynamaxes hit harder than 6-star or Gigantamaxes. I believe Niantic/Scopely has adjusted it so that Gigantamaxes generally take a lot longer, and we're going to be trying to hit as hard as possible. And with that too, I prefer Zamazenta because Zamazenta does about 2.5 times the damage as Blissey. And that's only because Metaclaw is neutral. Pound usually only has resistances and nothing that will give it above. If it had if it was weakness, then it would be even better. So every little damage that you can output on top of it is important. But speaking of that, for dragon attacks and even psychic as well, Zacian is pretty overpowered. Zacian actually does a really, really, really good job on dragon, but our best psychic resistance is actually going to be Metagross with Fury Cutter, and with it being a 0.5 second move and they be weak to it, Metagross is going to be a wonderful attacking tank. So you could choose Metagross because of that. Fury Cutter for Bug does just barely outdamage Zacian. I'm going to be doing some tests to see if which is more important during the fill-up phase during Lapras. So My findings may change things for my overall companions here by early next week. But for now, my choices are top 5 choices easily are Zacian, Zamazenta, and they are both going to have Metal Claw at 0.5 seconds. Metagross with Fury Cutter, Excadrill with Mudshot, and Blissey with Pound. Generally, though, unless if you do not have a Zamazenta, I do highly suggest a Zamazenta over Blissey, but you do need to have your Zamazenta with the max guard at level 3, as Zamazenta will start off with a shield if you have a max guard, and having at level 3 is a 60 HP shift, which gives it the ability to absorb just as much damage as Blissey. And that's without adding additional shields on top of it if you need to. For Latios, I still have the same 7, but we do have a little bit of a different overall feel here. Zamazenta is still the best sponge, but now with Solar Beam, it does also reduce 37.5% damage there, and is the best resistance on Solar Beam. And you still have Zacian and Metagross. Metagross kind of laughing at Psychic, and Zacian just absolutely laughs at any dragon damage. Outrage here is less dangerous than Dragon Claw was, as it's not as spammable. And honestly, Metagross does a decent job as well with that, and so does Zamazenta. And for me, the top 4 choices are Zacian, Zamazenta, Metagross with Fury Cutter, and Blissey. I keep Blissey around as has roughly the same as Zamazenta, but here Zamazenta definitely has a very large leg up over Blissey. And really, to me, there's only a top 3 choice. All right, for the best attackers for Latias and Latios. And you're going to take a look here, but Gengar is massively the best choice. Even Dynamax Gengar is a better choice than the next best unit that we have. But generally, if you have a Gmax Gengar, you're going to have a huge leap. Most people don't have Urshifu single. And if you are really willing to crank it out, which I may try and do, it's still really expensive because we just don't have enough candies for Urshifu. So that's why Urshifu is not on the top 3 here. I just don't see enough trainers that have a powerful enough one to even suggest it. But if you do have a level 40 or a level 50 there, it is between Gengar and Lapras for sure. Gengar, it is a problem because it will most likely be one-shotted versus any and all attacks that it will receive. And if it's not one-shotted, it will be two-shotted. I did not calculate its damage. I was kind of scared for the numbers I'd see. But Gengar does by far do the most amount of damage. So you're going to use it during your transformation phase, and only during your transformation phase either. I've added Zacian. Zacian is basically the neutral damage, the best by far. Usually Gmax Gengar is slightly ahead of Zacian because of that 450. And Inteleon is nowhere near because of the 37.9% resistance. And same with Fire for Cinderace. So those Gmaxes just aren't even in the conversation either. And really, you have a pretty large drop off below that. So hopefully you have a Metagross. And you also, if you're using Metagross as a shield, it is a tank, and you want to give it a shield and then do 2 Fury Cutters, it still does very good damage. It's not a Gmax Gengar, but if one of the 4 of you is the tank, it still will produce pretty powerful damage overall. All right, Latias and Latios mega units for candy. And yes, I had to shrink it down because there are so many, which is honestly really nice. Dragon and Psychic are 2 of the largest groups. Dragon by far, because frankly, dragons are the coolest to mega, at least in my mind, and Psychic actually is the second coolest. So this is a pretty cool list. We have Slowbro, Alakazam, Sceptile, Medicham, Garchomp, Gardevoir, Charizard X, Galad, Latios, Latias, Altaria, Salamence, Ampharos, Rayquaza. And there are others that haven't been released yet, so if they do return at some point. There will be others that can also be on part of this list, but aren't part of it because I don't have room to put them in. Once again, why do we care about mega units? Because we get extra candies. Latias and Latios are rare to farm, but what I'm actually going to enjoy most is making sure that you get at least a couple, because you could put them in power spots to get more bonus candy, which might help you with your regular Latias and Latios as well. So if you have a level 2 mega, you get 1 bonus candy, 10% chance of an XL dropping. There's 3 XLs that usually drop, and 50 EXP. Level 1, which is only 1 to 6 megas, you just get the 1 bonus candy. It's still useful. That's the best. And if you've mega any of these Pokemon 30 times, you do get 2 bonus candy and a 25% drops to do an XL and another 100 XP. But really, that's so small. That's not a big improvement. But generally, you should, as trainers, have at least one of these at level 2 at this point, and they are generally free to do once a week to do so. If you don't have any, and try and get a few of them up there as well. So my Latias battle plans, and I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of going back and forth on the tanks, but I think I'm going to go with Zamazenta, Metagross, and Gmax Gengar. I will be potentially weak to Thunder, and I may change out Zamazenta for Excadrill. I was thinking about Zacian, but I think Zamazenta is just going to work a little better. Metagross will be my main tank with Fury Cutter, because that's just going to do such good damage. But I do plan on having my Zamazenta out first until I can get a few shields. Gmax Gengar will be the main attacker in transformation, but the rest of the group of 3 or 4 that I have, I will be probably using Metagross and transformation for shields, hoping to redirect some of the real powerful damage. And everyone else, I hope, will be using Gmax Gengar, and that should last only 1 or 2 rounds general. And as I say, the last 5 Dynamax battles have hit harder, and it's by a factor of 2 to 2.5 than the Gmax battles have. So just be careful if you have not done that many 5-star Gmaxes. Or not Gmaxes, Dmaxes, sorry. Latios battle plans. Zamazenta, Metagross, and Gmax Gengar. Zamazenta will start. Metagross will take psychic damage. Zamazenta will tank the other 2. So for me, I'm not going to switch, but you've seen in my Latias that I've kind of still hemming and hawing between Zacian, Excadrill, and Zamazenta. But really, Metagross and Gmax Gengar are going to be my main 2 in general. So for me, I think they're going to be the same team, but I've got to see how hard all the damage is and how bad Thunder is. But in general, I don't expect too bad for the difference. So the Latias I'm still wavering on my Zamazenta, Zacian, or Excadrill. Latios, though, is pretty hard solid in Zamazenta, Metagross, and Gmax Gengar. You could probably get away with just 2 Metagross, or Blissey, Metagross, and Gmax Gengar, and that will be pretty solid overall. So finally, with all this stuff, are they worth it for you? Latios is definitely going to be the one that I think you should make sure you get really good IVs on first, and just make sure you get 1 Latias. And once you're happy with your Latios, then you can go back to Latias. Latias has less attack and slightly more defense, but we're really not going to use these a great deal defensively due to the large weaknesses the Latias has. And even so, I may suggest to go with Latios anyways, because of the very lack in difference between the 2, along with how much more power Latios has. Even so, I will be fighting more Latias than I should, because I want the Latias shiny so bad, which means I'll get the Latios shiny first and 0 Latias shinies. But both shinies are top notch. Don't really have much else to say on that. And for all trainers, make sure you use a star piece for Stardust and Lucky Egg for XP, as they will be very worth your while. And I know a lot of trainers are probably low on this because of the 4XP and 4 Stardust, yeah, Stardust as star pieces here are going to be in high demand, and we're going to have another one of those events as well. So I know there's strainful, and if you think you can grind better with that, that's a-okay. But generally, when you're doing Dmax and Gmax, these are going to be your biggest single time gains that you'll see. And with that, that's all I've got. If you've really enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. That really helps the channel greatly. I also have a Discord. Go to my community page and join up. You'll have to message me or DM me to get full access. But once you do, I will be able to give you access generally, unless if I'm sleeping pretty quickly. And then you just click a button and you can see all the Pokemon Go stuff, as I try to keep my Discord as uncluttered for everybody as possible. So you get to kind of optimize what you do want to see and not want to see. You could also get me on twitch.tv/madguru. I have a 24/7 stream, and I do try to tell people when I'm on live. And if you've got any questions there, I'll be happy to answer them live as well. I'm setting up my Patreon so that if you do pay Patreon, you'll get some rewards. One of them is you'll get to see all these slides by yourself, and a very high level Patreon, you'll get to see some of the spreadsheets that I have that have all the data between all the powers, etc., etc. With that, that's all I've got. And as always, I'll try and do better next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.